idea. Excellent.
Pray like that. Distinction. So why does your God pray to someone else?
And I said, talking about it as objective being something beyond humans. You know, out there in space, beyond our collective thought and our reasoning, things like that, beyond our condition here on this earth. I would say yes, it doesn't matter. Morality matters because of us. We're just a bunch of rocks. No morality. It matters because we're here, we have compassion, we have feelings, we prefer pleasure to pain. All these things, our very condition is something that's basically without even having it.
I'll ask you, what is your definition of objectivity?
Objectivity is something that's true regardless of one single person's opinion.
So, something which can be proven to be completely true 100% as a matter of
I didn't
fact.
say completely true 100%. No, I wouldn't say. I don't think.
All right, so I think
we talked about that before when we talked about mathematics and things that were, could be defined as being absolutely certain. And some things about mathematics are really the only things we know about that fall into that kind of category. Okay. There's nothing else that's absolute in that way. Okay. Because we're always finding more information, right?
Okay, so that's an interesting point. I was just to reiterate the point and ask you the question again. Sorry, right? I was going to ask you. So just to reiterate the point and sort of ask you the question again. So your definition of objective morality, of objectivism, is something which is something similar to mathematics, yeah?
No, I didn't say it was similar to mathematics.
Or is mathematics? Mathematics is objective.
Mathematics is absolutely, that's something that's absolutely provable in a certain sense. That's what you said. You said objectivity was 100% provable, and I said no, almost nothing is like that.
Yeah.
Mathematics is unique in that fact that it's something that we can really rely on to be nearly 100%.
Okay, so you've said before that other things other than, say, for example, mathematics, you can always add new information to it.
That's right.
So you can never say it's 100%. So
I wouldn't say so. Most things, I think that's fair.
So, okay, so in the same way that mathematics is objectively true, you couldn't say that morals is in the same way.
Objectively true. No, it depends upon what we're talking about.
In general, if I'm talking about morality, the fact that it's changing, like we have evidence, sociological and anthropological evidence.
Yeah, morals definitely change.
Yeah, so that evidence shows us that actually we're coming to new understandings of morality each time.
Theologically as well. And you would have to concede that even theologically morals have changed. Which is, I sort of have a problem when you say God has given us this law and it's known.
Yeah, but I don't want to go into the odyssey of talking about theology when we're talking about kind of philosophy at the moment.
Right, fair enough.
Yeah. So let's just stick with one thing at a time. I was just sort of on this topic in the same way that, so you got mathematics is objective.
Yeah.
You can't say that morals is objective as an atheist in the same way. On the atheistic worldview.
It's objective. It's not 100% absolute.
Okay, but hold on, excuse me. Because
objective means having, good rational reasons for it that are not just my opinion.
Not really. That's not what it means.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, so that's not what objectivity is.
How are you going to define objectivity?
So objectivism, as defined by philosophers in philosophy as a discipline. Objectivism is basically the idea that you've got, something which is 100% true as a proven fact. There's nothing that comes after that as a falsehood. So it's a principle which is unchanging, really, or a reality.
That might be one definition. I mean, I'd quibble about that, but
no, but that's objective.
I mean, generally, objective means not having to do with one person's opinion.
Yeah, okay, so that must mean it's fact.
More or less.
Like 2 + 2 = 4. It's not to do with my opinion, is it?
Yeah, but there's as I said, there's very few things outside of mathematics that we can be that sure
I
about.
think me and you have agreed on that.
Yeah.
On the atheistic worldview.
Yeah.
I think if you're speaking on the atheistic worldview, there are very few things. Maybe logic would.
Now, if you're going to saddle me with atheism, I'm going to come up with the theism. So let's stay on the.
So now if we talk about this, if we think about this, and this is the point I'm making. I'm not really today. I don't want to necessarily talk about. In the first instance, I don't want to talk about God existing or not, because you've had this conversation with so many people before.
Well, you kind of have to if you're going if you're going to go after, like you said, you went after the atheist thing, and you said it doesn't quite work in terms of objective morality, and you're going to pin yours on theism.
Yes, I understand.
and that's going to be your basis for it,
I get you.
then you kind of have to talk about it. You
I
can't
will.
just talk
I said
about
in the
mine.
first
Because I
instance.
think we're on the same footing here.
Yeah, I understand, but I said in the first
Both of
instance-
us don't have solid bedrock
Yeah.
to hang
But-
our morals
but
on.
I said in the first-
we have something. It's not solid bedrock.
If you just listen carefully to what I said, because what I said was in the first instance.
Yeah.
So I want you to see something first before I show you the theistic worldview.
Okay.
Something about the atheistic worldview. So we've agreed that mathematics, outside of mathematics, you can't really say.
So if you want to say it's not 100% absolute, then conceded. We can move on.
Okay.
I said I have objective reasons to choose the morals that I would choose. And so it's not subjective in that sense. There's objective reasons that support these morals.
So based on
and this is part of a secular thing, and we didn't. This is why kind of morals change as people learn more.
So can you mind-
hopefully they've gotten a little better. They're not great these days, but they're getting better as we learn more.
This kind of terminologies are not helpful in philosophy, because when you say better, that suggests that there's an end result almost. But I want to just before we get onto that, I want to say something. Yeah, I want to say to you that you've conceded before that mathematics is probably, in your words, the only thing which is objective. And you've said then afterwards that you've got objective reasons for believing in morality, which by definition must mean you have mathematical reasons for believing in morality. So can you prove morality using maths?
I was using objective in terms of not being, based on my opinion. That's how I'm.
Okay, so not being based on like maths. So what else?
No, I'm not saying they're objective. See, you're the one who said objective is like math. I kind of I disagreed with that a bit. I said objective is, not relying on my opinion.
Okay, so if you use that definition, what else is objective completely objective other than maths?
Completely objective.
On the
I don't
atheistic
know. Why don't
worldview.
you tell me
On
something?
your perspective, because atheists, some atheists, just to tell you something, will have an issue with mathematics. Nietzsche had an issue with science. Nietzsche had an issue with mathematics. There are some postmodernist atheists that will have an issue with almost everything, and that's why they'll go into this idea of you can't even prove yourself. There is a lot of presuppositions, and when you're making any decision making, rationalism is one of them, that we can rationalize things. That is a presupposition. Another thing is possibly empiricism, like the idea that 5 senses can actually get us information. There are many philosophical presuppositions that you have to concede, you have to take for granted.
They're pretty small. I mean, the thing about your senses, you have to kind of go down the path of start inventing things like, are we a brain in a vat, and certain solipsistic arguments which are not really worth talking about. If we're going to talk about whether our senses work,
but that's what philosophy is all about.
you watch babies learn. Do your senses work? Do you know that they work straight out of the... Hang on. Do you know your senses work straight out of the gate? No, you don't. You see babies kind of learning about their senses, when they're growing up. And so these things are reinforced every day by the fact that they work. The fact that I see something out in front of me and I can reach out and grab it and then I feel it, and I know that I have this thing that kind of confirms your eyesight, and these kinds of things. Your senses are confirmed every day that you're living. And if they're not working, you also get a hint that they probably don't work.
You cannot prove objectively that your senses are completely...
again, back to 100, waste of time to talk about this 100%
It's a waste of time when it's
thing.
difficult philosophically to answer.
Well, that's why philosophy kind of, ends it being really kind of interesting in a sense, because you could kind of, constantly search for why is that and why is that and why is that.
The point is that's what we're doing though. As an atheist, that's how you became an atheist, isn't it? So I'm being skeptical because you were skeptical. You were skeptical, and that's what led you to not believing in God. Now, if we use your skepticism, I will say to you that let's use your skepticism to actually analyze and criticize your belief system. So I'm saying...
Well, the difference
do you mind
between...
if I just make one more point, just if you don't mind? My point is, just to make myself clear, that before you do maths, before you do science, before you do anything, there is a presupposition, which is that you are a rational creature,
right,
who is able to come to decision-making capabilities, yes, based on the faculties that they have, including the 5 senses. Yeah. Now, this itself, which is one of the interesting paradoxes of science itself, cannot be proven scientifically. The scientific method cannot be proven scientifically. Maths cannot be proven scientifically. The fact that rationality, that we're all humans are rational creatures, cannot be proven mathematically or scientifically. Now the idea is, now you're making rational decision making. You're making rational statements, positive statements, affirmative statements. My question is, how can you make such statements without objectively proving, using objective morality, any of those things to be true in the first instance?
Yeah, because I don't think we have to objectively prove things 100% absolute, like you said, to move forward.
Okay. In that case,
and you said I make presuppositions. Yes, we have to make some presuppositions that my senses work. As I said, from out of the womb, these are confirmed every day that they work. Your life goes on.
Okay, but that's
you are able to operate
by the way,
with nature.
I don't disagree with you.
And so these are very small presuppositions, which are empirically working.
Empirically, again, you go into what you call in logic a cyclical argument. You can't prove the five senses to be objectively true, and then you're using them.
It's the kind of thing. It's like if I want to see if a pen works, I pick it up and use it. And you seem to think that so empirically, I'm looking down and this thing works. And I can see it works. And so I'm fine with that because I want to use the pen to write something down. So this is achieving the end that I want. And you want to kind of question these things like, well, do you really know? You're using your reason to figure out the pen works.
What I'm doing, Ken,
and so this is
what I'm doing, Ken, is I'm employing the skeptical approach to show you that your philosophical reasoning, if you use the skeptical approach, could mean for your own self-annihilation in terms of rationalism, because you can't prove rationalism. You can't presuppose it. So in that case, if you don't reason, I'm asking you because you're talking about morals, yeah?
Yeah.
You can't even prove that you can make rational decisions. Rationality exists within you.
No, you said that. I didn't say
that.
that.
How can you prove it? Objectively.
You can't prove it. We keep coming back to the same thing. If we're going to say we need to prove something to a 100% absolute, then I would concede. It's not really worth talking about anything except for mathematics.
Okay. But even I would say even mathematics. If you want,
we can talk about what works.
Okay. Even mathematics.
Yeah, I'm sure that you can find exceptions there, but
Even mathematics, I would say that the same thing would apply. You have to first assume a rationalism for a human being. So okay.
And I just want to get one thing at the record.
So you can't prove that you exist.
I'm taking really simple presuppositions.
What do you call them simple?
They're self-evident every day.
Okay, I accept that.
And you're hanging your presupposition on I have perfect knowledge from the creator of the universe, something that doesn't manifest itself at all to most of us.
Okay, let me tell you something, right?
It's a massive claim.
Okay,
my claim is not anywhere near so arrogant as to say that I have contact with 100% knowledge.
Okay.
Now, I'm not calling you arrogant. You know what I'm saying.
Ken, now moving on to this, because I wanted to show you how being skeptical can lead you to question absolutely everything. That was one lesson.
Yeah, but I think that's exhausting. You don't need to go to that end, which is why I have a little bit of a problem with philosophy, because when you start question one over another and not just kind of accept, I've got most of the answer right, it's probably in there, then you can stop.
So fine, so you concede that you cannot prove certain presupposed things as a self-evident reality, which includes
I think it's a waste of time to talk about, but you're in the same bed as I am. You're in the same bed as I am because your theology has to require your rationalism, your senses, your consciousness to be able to recognize this other thing. You're in the same bed as me. You can't escape it.
Ken, do you mind if I tell you something? Because now you've made a claim without knowing my worldview. This conversation that we've had only can be the case, really, on the atheistic worldview. On the theistic worldview, it's a very simple deduction. The maxim would go as follows. God created human beings able to make decisions, therefore he gave them rationalism. Therefore you could do science, you could do maths, you could do whatever you want to do. Now the point is really...
Where's the proof for any of those things?
Where's the proof for?
Yeah, where's the proof for any of those things? These are massive
claims. But you said before, said in your words before, just to show you that there is a paradox in what you're saying. Where's the proof?
And I say proof.
I'm going to come
mean
to that.
Evidence. And don't confuse two things about whether there's good evidence for something, making it very, very likely to be true, and whether I can say it's absolutely 100% true. And these are the things that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about just kind of believing whatever. I'm talking about things that there's absolutely outstanding evidence for. The evidence is outstanding.
Then
that doesn't mean it's 100% true.
Would you like me
and like
to,
I said,
like me to present
your own thing about whether we exist or not, and the brain and the vat. I can't say that that's true or false, but it's not what we're talking about.
All right.
The fact that I exist in this world and I can react with my sentences and operate in this world according to the laws of nature, the evidence for that is absolutely fantastic.
Okay, fine.
And if it's
From
not
a
true,
metaphorical
then there's a
perspective.
massive joke going on at my expense.
Interesting. Now, having said that, again, I just want to ask you a question, right? You said you accept mathematics as an evidence, yeah?
Of course.
Yeah, okay. Now, logical deductionism, do you accept that as evidence?
Yes, but you have to be careful about the premises you take.
Yes, accepted, right.
And and that was my problem with yours, is I'm working on very, very simple, self-evident premises, and you're working on something
No, but that's subjective at that point.
Huh?
Because I can describe anything as simple, or I can describe anything as complex. It depends on the person who's observing.
Okay, do you really think that? Do you think I've taken a leap? Now, be honest. Do you think I've hung my hat on some?
No. You've hung your hat on something. You've admitted it, which is that you've said that we have to first take as a presupposed belief system that rationalism and the senses are in fact a way by which or through which human beings can achieve knowledge.
Yeah,
and there's no way of proving
that's small.
rationalism.
I mean, you're holding some of the evidence in your hand.
Accepted, but I'm just saying. But by the way, I do not subscribe to the fact that God, because we take. Remember, I told you before. We believe as Muslims, theists, we believe that God created human being with rational faculties, the ability to make decisions. You can't even prove rationality as an objective reality. You can't prove empiricism. You can't prove as a recourse. You can't prove.
What does prove mean?
Proving means without a shadow of a doubt, without any reasonable doubt.
We can stop talking about that one because there's nothing.
Yeah, no. So
it's almost nothing.
Because you've asked me, have you taken the leap? And I'm saying these are the leaps you've taken. There are some presuppositions you have to do before you do science, before you even do maths.
Well, see, I would say that no, we don't have to prove science. You're holding it in your hand. We can see it.
Okay.
We can see it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
This is a very interesting question.
Yeah.
You're saying that you don't have to prove science, yeah? Do you mind if I just ask the question?
No,
the question is as follows. The scientific
method
method has many stages in it.
Yeah.
Of them are like creating a hypothesis, going out doing the experiment, falsification, going out putting it in journals, etc. Now, is there any way that the scientific method can prove maths? Is there any way that the scientific method can prove itself, i.e. the method itself? Is there any way the scientific method can prove morality? Is there any way the scientific method, can prove philosophy? Is there any way the scientific method can prove any of those things? It can't.
Okay, now, how about this? Let's grant all that, and then you tell me why that's a problem.
The problem is you've said that you've seen...
Like if we're going to use science in order to do certain things, to build cars, to build homes, where is it a problem that we can't prove this?
Okay.
Is there somewhere in your life where it's like, wow, the scientific method is really failing me this week?
No, excuse me. Do you mind if I ask you a question? Yeah, you saying that? Do you know the scientific method in general? Do you accept the results of the scientific method?
I mean, I guess, from a scientific point of view, it's always kind of temporary, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's the fact that it's working for us.
Okay.
The fact that it works is kind of what we're trying to do. I mean, we're here on this earth. We have to live. We have to feed ourselves. We have to find food and shelter. We have to operate within the laws of the situation that we've been put on. So we kind of have to figure out how to do that. And the scientific method helps us negotiate this thing so that we can live our life.
Okay.
And you said, was it proven? It's like, well, we seem to be getting done all the things we need to get
really
done.
Happy with
or
that
most
answer.
of them.
Do you know, I agree with you totally on that. There's a point of complete agreement between me and you. You know why? Because I feel like what you've said is indicative of the fact that you understand that the scientific method has its flaws. Or has its presupposed notions.
It's our best method. It's our best method.
Good. Now,
and the reason it's our best method is it kind of takes out some of the unnecessary leaps of logic that people take, and it checks.
No, but there is some.
It's a
there is some
self-checking.
leap. There is some.
There is some leap,
yes.
but it gets rid of a lot of it.
Accepted.
I mean, if we go back in
Accepted.
scientific history, some of the nonsense that people have come up by sitting there just kind of looking at some evidence and sitting around thinking about it without doing the experiment, or doing the experiment poorly, or doing the experiment with bias, or doing the experiment without someone else checking it and recreating it, then we've come up with nonsense. And science takes care of a lot of this.
You're right.
We probably still have some bullshit in our science, but we have a lot less of it.
Can I tell you something now, yeah? So now we've talked about maths and we've talked about science, because these are the two things that I would say Western civilization, or civilization in general, consider almost the most bias-free subjects which do not accept human, let's say, opinions or ideology.
Right.
That's why that was what Karl Popper intended to do when he sort of refined the scientific method in the early 20th century. Now, I want to say to you this. If we say that maths and science, there are some leaps of faith as you've accepted.
Yeah.
You have to. How about now logical deductionism? You say the same thing would apply, or not? Would you accept that? Would logical deductionism be on the same level for you as maths and science, or science?
Logical deductions. I mean, I guess a logical deduction would be close, but the premises have to be rock solid.
Let me give you an example. So this is I've used this example before. Let me use it again. This is the example used in philosophy books. Say all men are mortal.
Yeah.
Premise A.
Yeah.
Socrates is a man.
Yeah.
Therefore, Socrates is mortal.
Yeah. See, these are based on some definitions, so yes.
So do you accept that result?
Yeah.
Now, okay, let me now, because you've asked me of evidences of God and stuff like that. Yeah. Now,
Please don't do Kalam.
Okay, I'm gonna do it. Because you've accepted the.
Okay, you do Kalam, and then I'll tell you why I don't like it. But go on.
Okay. Everything that begins to exist has a cause.
Maybe.
Okay. Just like you said, maybe about science and maths.
This is a little bit bigger of a maybe, just because the more science kind of explores what's true about our natural world.
But that's scientific.
Well, what are you going to say about quantum physics?
What do I say about quantum? Well, how does that contradict it?
How does it? Just by the way that things operate at the quantum level, whether something specifically has a cause in that way is kind of unknown. It's more of a. I'm not going to claim to understand quantum physics, but elements at that level seem to be more of a wave of possibility rather than have a specific state or anything. So whether that's how that state is caused or if it's caused is unknown. It just seems to be a wave of possibilities, which for us is completely crazy.
Yeah.
And how could you understand that? But if that's the way it is, then that's the way it is. And so when you say everything has a cause, in general here, most of the time that works. Yeah, look, most of the time that works.
Let's start this like this. Yeah. We've talked about this now. Let's take it step by step. Everything that has a beginning is caused. Would you accept that?
In some sense, yeah. But like I said, with the caveat of there's some things that we don't completely understand, and that might not be the case. But in generally, I could accept that.
Right. Point 2.
Yeah.
The universe had a beginning.
Now that one we don't know about.
We don't know about that.
No.
Why not?
Because I don't really think that's what the Big Bang Theory says. I mean, there's a bunch of different models. Some of them are eternal. Some are not. And the sense of a beginning is not necessarily an absolute beginning, and that nothing happened before that. It's just
okay. So you say there's
it's quite possible that the universe is eternal.
Now let me ask you a question, because you say that the universe had there's other models and whatnot.
Yeah.
I'm not even at the moment. I'm not standing here and espousing Big Bang. Yeah. I'm not even saying that necessarily that the model of the Big Bang is an objective reality that we all have to subscribe to. That's not what I'm saying to you.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is to you that there is ample evidence that the universe has a beginning and is continually has an age.
Could be.
Yes, and that is actually not only substantiated by science, but it's substantiated by.
The science don't say anything really rigorous. I mean, they're still squabbling.
There is definitely some evidences to suggest that the universe.
I mean, we're talking about we know the old thing. There's a Big Bang. We can only describe it can't describe it back to t equals 0. We can describe it back to t equals some fraction of a second, right?
Once again, I'm not necessarily espousing the model of the Big Bang that we have been exposed to. Well, I'm not necessarily denying that model either. I'm just saying that there are a bunch of models out there, as you've said.
Yeah. Well,
most of
true.
which, in terms of the scientific community, which you say you accept,
Yeah.
the results of the scientific community for the most part.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you follow your logic, then it makes more sense to believe that there was a beginning of the universe and it continues to go
No,
forward.
but what I'm saying is the models, they haven't chosen that yet. You know, the people that are talking about this thing, there's a bunch of different models in terms of, and like I said, we can talk about the beginning of the universe back to, you know, not quite back to the initial singularity. We can't get back that far. So we don't really know what that is or what that means.
Okay, fine.
Or if there's something before it. So we can get really close. And so it's sort of like a beginning, but we don't really know. We don't really know if it was a beginning or if it's eternal.
Okay, so if you say that it's eternal, you have to provide evidences for that.
I don't say. I'm saying
You don't know.
You claim that the universe had a beginning, and I said, okay, that's a little bit of a shaky premise because scientists don't say that.
Well, actually, they do actually say that.
Some will use beginning as some kind of a thing, but that's not beginning the way
And
you and I are
when you
thinking
say scientists
beginning.
don't say that, I don't think that's a correct statement, though. Let's be honest. Most scientists actually do say that.
I think you've heard me for 20 minutes. I don't say things just to win
No,
an
no, no,
argument.
but what
I'm
I'm-
talking
yeah.
about what they talk about. And if you look at the guys...
generally speaking, scientists in the West, yeah, I'm not saying I personally, totally in the way that that this is presented, subscribe to this particular model or of the Big Bang. I might have no issues with it necessarily, but what I'm saying is, from a theological perspective, what I'm saying is, if you look at what the majority of scientists are saying here, the majority of scientists in the West and other places do refer to a singularity that started the universe. That is, and they have substantial evidences to prove their premise, like for example redshift, the expanding universe, etc.
all that stuff, sure.
All right, so it's not fair to say that the scientists don't say that. That would be, I feel, taken away from.
What they don't say is it definitely had a beginning.
I think they do.
Which ones?
Well, I think the majority of cosmologists.
No, not the majority. They don't know.
Okay, so how would you come to that conclusion?
Because every time I listen to one of them talk, they say it probably had a beginning, but we don't know.
Yeah, of course. But look, I mean, you can say you don't know, as we said. Before we had the conversation, but we're just right now.
And this gets me back because
but hold on.
there's different models. There's
mind?
eternal models, there's ones that aren't eternal.
Fine. But what I'm saying from a rational perspective now, because you said before, even when we were talking about science and maths, we said that there were things that were presupposed before we can even start doing maths and start doing it in science. Things like rationalism. You have to presuppose that we're rational beings that are able to deal with science before you actually do science. We have to presuppose that the senses, they work. These are things that are presupposed before you start doing maths and science.
Right.
Therefore, I'm saying you couldn't say for fact. There's always going to be an element of I don't know.
When we're talking about facts, and I've said it a few times, there's things there's really good evidence for, which it would be silly to deny them.
Right.
And then there's another end, which is absolute fact, which is unshakable, which I said there are a few things. And then there's some stuff lower than that. There's some evidence for it, but we don't really know. It's kind of shaky. And this is the grounds that this is on. And
the issue here,
scientists are, for a fact, talking about a number of different models, some of which are eternal, some of which are not.
That's
there's
fine,
multiverse theories. There's all kinds of things. We can get back really close to this singularity, and before that, we don't know what happened. And to describe it as a beginning.
Yes. Ken, do you mind if I just cut you off there? Because there's something you said, there's multiverse theories. Multiverse theory, first and foremost, does not actually contradict that the universe had a beginning. It affirms it. Because multiverse theory, you said that, that's point one. Point two, the other theories and concepts out there, static state theory, which is what you're referring to here, static state, the universe was always eternal, is a scientific relic. Now, the majority of scientists have completely rejected this theory in the 21st century.
Hang on, I'm not going to let you pin me down on that because I don't know exactly what you're talking about.
Static state theory is the idea.
I'm saying something very soft.
Ken. What you've said is that the universe has always been there, yeah? Or that's something is a possibility.
But it's not static state.
That is static state theory.
No.
So what's the difference? What is the difference between what static state theorists believe in and what you what that is?
It's having time in this direction and time in that direction.
No, but static state theory.
Yeah.
says
So
that-
it's not static.
No,
it's
but-
not the same.
No, but the issue is if you research static
It
state theory,
evolves in this direction
But if
and
you
in
research-
that one.
if
So
you-
all you have is
No.
a point in the middle
static state
where
theory.
it looks like it began.
Before the modern era, yeah, in the recent sort of last
Yeah, but I'm
200
not
years,
talking about that.
I'm saying that was what people believed in. That's static part of
I'm
static
not
state
talking
theory.
about that.
So you believe in static state theory?
No.
Okay, so in that case, why are
This
you
is what I
saying?
was saying. I'm making a very soft claim. Today, 2016, scientists don't know whether it's eternal or not eternal. It had a specific
Scientists
beginning
have come
or
to the
just
conclusion,
had...
for the most part, yes, that the universe had a beginning. Now,
Okay.
I'm not saying that that
we
means
spent too much time on that, but I think neither of us are
but-
cosmologists.
no, I accept it. But
From
look-
what I've seen, they haven't claimed that.
But if you're using scientists as the barometer here, which I don't even do, yeah?
Yeah.
But if you're doing that, you would come to the conclusion that actually most scientists of today, they do not accept static state theory. I think it's very difficult for you to make the
I wasn't
argument,
hanging my head on static state theory, because I don't even know what it is, to be honest.
Okay, so it's the idea that the universe was always there.
Yeah, but I think that's different than it being static.
No, but that's just what it's called. I mean, one of the assumptions of static state theory is that the universe has always existed. That's what you said is one of the.
There's a bunch of different models of the universe.
That's one of them, and that's been
Not all of
denied
them.
by the
Not
majority
all of them have a
scientists.
beginning.
Static
They
state.
have a time with the
Accept
singularity,
it.
which is in the middle.
Okay, now we are people of evidence. Has someone that believes in static state theory ever come to you with any evidences?
I don't know what it is. I don't know what static state
Let me
theory
say it
is.
this way then. Has anyone who believes that the universe has always been eternal, always been there, ever presented you with evidences to suggest that that is the case?
No, I don't really
So
discuss
why-
it with people. On a
Okay, so in
day-to-day
that case,
basis.
why have you come to a conclusion that the universe is always eternal? If you don't,
I didn't.
Okay, you don't. But no, I don't. You don't.
You said it had a beginning, and I said scientists haven't gone that far yet to know whether it has or it
Scientists,
hasn't.
by the way, can I tell you something? Then
Yeah.
I would say fine. Science in general cannot be certain about anything.
Yeah.
Certainty cannot be achieved by science, anyways. Yes. But what I'm saying is, if
It's
you're
not. It's not even certainty. They're not even sure what the right model
Ken,
is to
it seems
describe.
like what this is that you have a standard of truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is really a convenient, what I would call a convenient standard of truth.
Okay.
Which means to
Why is
say,
that?
I'll tell you why I think that. Where it suits the atheistic narrative to accept scientific theory, you do it. Where it doesn't suit the atheistic narrative to accept the theories that have been proposed by the majority of scientists, you reject it. So I say that this is an inconsistent way of dealing with science.
All I
You
know
say-
is, hey, listen, I'm not a cosmologist.
It's fine,
All
but
I
you-
know is when I hear these guys speak on like YouTube or wherever it is, they generally say we don't know whether it had a beginning or not.
Forget about these guys
And
speaking.
to describe it as and if it had a beginning, to describe it as a classical beginning, the way we think about it, is
What do
just
you mean by
not
classical
helpful.
beginning? I'm just talking about an inception. I'm talking about a point where the universe began. I say that the fact that the universe began is something which the majority of scientists. Now,
Yeah,
once
and
again,
they-
I don't say that scientists know everything or
Well,
science
the
is
thing
perfect.
is, they
But-
talk about, the state of the state of the universe as being, looking at differential
in your
equations. So there's
opinion,
not exactly a beginning.
there
There's
more-
a time in the middle.
in your opinion,
Yeah.
now, if we're talking about the universe, yeah, is there more evidence to show that the universe had an inception, a beginning, scientific evidence, evidence from physics and otherwise,
Yeah.
or is there more evidence to show that the universe did not have?
It depends upon how you want to describe beginning. If you want to say there was a time when, time and space didn't exist, then that's what they say. Yeah.
Okay, so you accept that, yeah?
There was a time, but that could be in the middle.
Whatever, but there was
going that
so there
way
was an
and time
inception.
going that
That's
way.
fine, but that's no problem. But you're saying the universe.
So
has
if you want to say there was a time, this is a matter of definition.
Fine.
If you want to say there was a time when space and time didn't matter, I would say they pretty much say that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, all right, fine. In that case, I'll ask you this question. So if we accept premise one, that everything that begins to exist has a cause.
Yeah.
Number two, the universe had a cause.
Yeah.
So the question is now, the universe had a beginning. Number three, therefore the universe had a cause.
Well, here's part of the description of some of these models is the time and space being zero happens in the middle. It's part of a differential
said
equation. I've heard Sean Carroll say it for one, and I'm
What
not sure if
evidence
I heard.
What evidence is there of that?
It's not evidence, it's their model. So they have some evidence of why they would claim it could be like that. But this is what I was getting back to. Is they're not stating one way or another. They're saying,
even if I take that for granted, that's no problem. I'm just saying that.
So under that thing, there wouldn't be a cause. That's just part of the whole.
So how would it work? So you've got here the universe's inception, time and space and matter began. Yeah, you've admitted. Now, before that point, what was there?
Yeah, no, it's tough to, before. And this is what I was saying about
what caused this then. Was it zero that caused this?
Well, obviously, if they came up, that's part of the things they look at is to do these models. They're looking at, what are the rules of the models to make, when I start here with these conditions, what happens next?
No, my point is,
and they're not saying there's definite.
You wouldn't say 0 + 0 = 1.
Of course not.
All right. Now, because the Qur'an has a beautiful verse. It says in chapter 52, verse 35, 36, 37, أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ. Were they created from nothing, or are they themselves the creators of themselves? In other words here, you said, interestingly enough, that 0 + 0 can't equal 1.
Of course not.
Yes. So, and the universe had a beginning, we accept it. Now, what was the cause of that universe then? What made it happen? This universe that we've got here, time, space, matter came into existence at that point. What happened here? What made this happen?
Something else.
Something else. Okay. What were the attributes of this something else?
Well, it's kind of like any natural law. It's just like, what makes, anything happen. There's kind of laws of the universe, and we start here, and, based on how these laws work, we can tell you what happens next.
Accepted. Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yes.
So obviously.
Yes.
There would have been some conditions.
Yes.
That led to whatever started the Big Bang. There would have been some conditions.
Yes.
And, I don't want to say, it's
this something else.
It's kind of like what made that cloud move from there to there. Is it something, or is it just
conditions?
This is part of meteorology. Is we look at the sky, we can tell you what's going to happen next based on the laws that we observe.
Perfect. Now,
right.
Do you know what? I totally at this stage I think we totally agree with each other.
All right.
Here now I'm going to ask you, what must have been the attributes of this thing, or whatever this thing is?
Oh. Couldn't even try to speculate.
Do you agree that the universe is finely tuned?
Not necessarily.
So do you disagree with Martin Rees and who wrote Just Six Numbers?
Martin Rees doesn't think that it's finely tuned.
Of course he doesn't. He wrote a book called Just Six Numbers. The whole premise of his book is that he believes that the universe is finely tuned, and he says that there are 6 numbers that detail the fine-tuning of the universe.
I haven't read the book, but from when I've heard him speak, he doesn't speak that way. He might say that there are certainly numbers that are part of our description.
Stephen Hawkins.
Yeah. If you're going to say there are numbers that
fine-tuning is accepted as a cosmological reality.
No. The fact that these constants exist is accepted as part of our reality.
Yes.
The fact that they were fine-tuned by something else is not what's claimed.
I'm not saying by something else.
So the constants, people all agree they exist.
So
Martin Rees exists.
Yes.
I doubt he would say they're fine-tuned.
Okay, now, fine-tuning of the universe doesn't suggest in its very phraseology that there must have been a fine-tuner, okay? Right. I'm not saying that there was a fine-tuner. Right. But I'm just saying that do you accept that the universe is finely tuned? And you said yes, because everyone accepts it.
I would say there's the constants are there. Fine-tuning kind of has some baggage that goes with it.
No problem, but that's the phraseology. That's not what I'm using. That's what they use, yeah? If that's the case now, if that is the case, if the universe is finely tuned, the question is, and you accept also that there was something before the universe that brought rise to the phenomena of the universe, because that was the conditions that must have been there before. Now, would you accept, therefore, that one of the attributes of that thing that existed before must have been that it had the propensity to create a situation which is finely tuned, or create a universe which is finely tuned?
Yeah, see, now we're getting into some real leaps. And, what?
Why are we getting into leaps? It's perfect. It's perfectly tightly knitted, one right next to the next.
Well, to say what made those constants be the way they are, I mean, see, this is one thing that we would have to accept, is that it doesn't necessarily have to be those constants. It is in the universe that we experience, and that's all we can say. Are there other universes? Is this the only one? Are there a number of different constances which lead to different things? About these things, we just don't know. Just don't know. We have one more universe. It has a bunch of constants that seem to be constant, and that's about all we can say about it.
Okay, so you accepted that there was something that was there before the universe, which brought rise to the phenomenon of the universe. You accepted that. You can't retract it. The point is now, that thing that existed before...
I think I said there were probably some conditions.
Yeah,
there might have been
some conditions. That's fine. I'm saying that thing or those conditions that existed before the universe that brought rise to the phenomenon of the universe. My question to you is, mustn't that thing that existed before the universe that brought rise to the phenomenon of the universe, mustn't that thing have had the attributes, yes, of knowledge?
Oof.
Or, and this is the or was the universe with all of those constants that Martin Rees said if one of the numbers had been changed out of its place that nothing would exist in the way it is and the universe wouldn't be able to be finely tuned for human life to exist, and that's basically the definition of fine tuning, by the way. Fine tuning means that this universe is made for life to exist. If that is the case, were these conditions a random generation, or does it make more sense to say, from a probabilistic perspective, that in fact they must have been arranged?
That's a question that we would have to say we don't know. Could be either.
What makes more sense to you?
I've always said that if you wanted to make an argument for some type of creator of the universe, you can make one based on things like that.
I'm making an argument.
Based on certain things like that and DNA and things like that,
so
you can make that argument.
So do you accept that that's a strong
I
argument?
don't accept it as an argument,
Why?
but I think you can make it.
No, but why do you not accept it?
I might accept it as far as someone like Einstein might accept it, in terms that this universe is very interesting, there must be something going on.
Okay, fine, fantastic. So
but,
you wouldn't
say
say it's random. You wouldn't say it's a random generation.
Oof, it could be.
Do you know this one scientist, philosopher, cosmologist, who I'm forgetting the name of, but you can Google him. He said that to believe that the universe, as it is in fact a random generation, is the same as to believe that a tornado ripped through basically a shack or something like that with a 747 Boeing. Yeah, junkyard with a 747 Boeing. Yeah. And that all of the elements of the 747 Boeing came right back in its place. In other words, it's really a preposterous thing to suggest that. Thank you very much, man. It's a preposterous thing. Would you like something? Sure. He got me a gift, man. Very nice guy. It's a preposterous thing.
Oh, that's preposterous, but I'm not sure that's a fair description for.
Why not? I mean,
what
the
we're talking about.
If you look at the laws
an
of physics,
airplane is something that we've already decided what we want that thing to look like. It's not a tornado could blow through a junkyard and put together a very interesting looking piece of junk. But it might not mean anything to us. An airplane means something to us because we've designed it specifically for our purposes.
If you got an airplane, a 747 Boeing, and an airplane in a junkyard, then you have a tornado that goes right through the junkyard and destroys the 747 Boeing.
Yeah.
Right. Now, would you accept that the tornado, having destroyed and obliterated the 747 Boeing, can now, with the forces of its wind, realign and readjust the very 747 back into its exact place? Is that something you'd accept? Come on.
Yeah, well, it's not very likely.
No, it's not likely. Now, having said that now, I will say
that's not what we're talking about.
No, it is, because that's the kind of phraseology that's used by cosmologists and physicists that have assessed the probabilities and the possibilities of the universe coming about based on a random generation.
There's a difference between saying something is complex and saying something is designed a certain way to fit, people.
I'm just talking about, remember, the definition of fine-tuning.
Obviously, the universe is complex. But there's a difference between that and, something that has some significant background information to it, such as airplanes, which are designed by us specifically for our purposes.
But if you don't mind, I have actually defined fine-tuning in a very specific way, which is fine-tuning is the ability of the ability, or fine-tuning is when the universe can have or can facilitate life on it to exist. That's basically what fine tuning is. So what I'm saying is that to have a universe, which can facilitate life, is as probabilistic as having that 747 Boeing realigned after it's being torn to pieces.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just don't see it that way.
Why do you not see it that way? That's not my phraseologies. That's not my syntaxes.
Because to me, the conditions were here. Life happened to come up, and that's about as much as you can say about it. I'm not convinced that there was, a pre-thought to thinking, I need to get the conditions right for people to be here. I don't think it worked that way.
I think you're intelligent, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
And genuinely, I've enjoyed speaking to you. I think that we both sort of grappled with some ideas. Yeah. But what I was going to say was that let's use our logic here, please. Yeah. Before the universe, you accepted that there is such a thing. This thing that existed, wouldn't it make sense to say that this thing had the ability to align the laws in that way, rather than saying they align themselves? Doesn't it make sense? I mean, you're an intelligent person. To say no here is I think would be for a reason, and it wouldn't be a
No. I've already, if you're going to try to pin me, I've already conceded that you can make an argument for a creative universe. Okay. You can make one.
But
there's enough evidence to have the pieces to make part of an argument. But to say that it's, we're in, this is coming back to things we talked about before. I can make certain presuppositions about things that I experience every day that I can be very clear about. But we're talking about things that are so far beyond me into pieces of sciences that I just don't understand, and that probably no human could ever understand. It's hard for me to say what is definitely the answer.
I'm just saying that for you as a rational operator, a sentient being with the ability to understand and rationalize, what makes more sense to you? To believe that the thing that came before the universe, that brought rise to the universe, with the universe with all of its constants that have been that are finely tuned to allow human life to exist.
See, and this is what I'm saying. I'm not convinced that they're there for human life. I think
that's not
the condition. To me, it worked this way.
No, but I'm not saying that they're here for human life.
You're starting with humans and working that way.
No, but
and I'm starting from this way. These are the conditions. These are the next. That knocked onto this. Knocked onto this.
Forget about human beings. I'm not talking about for humans. That's something that
life.
I've just said that they have allowed life to exist. Now, to have a unit, basically, put it this way: to have a universe that would allow, or that can allow, human life or any life to exist, is a very complicated thing to do, to achieve.
That's something we don't know. We don't know what the conditions are.
According to physics.
No. They're describing life as
the whole thing
we're
finely
living.
tuned.
They're not describing any kind of life. We don't even know. We have no idea what conditions are for life. We know what the conditions are for our type of life.
No, that's not correct.
Yeah, it is. Of course it is.
Well, when you say human beings.
Human beings, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not correct at all.
What do you mean?
The conditions for different creatures are different. I'm talking about any life here, not just human life.
Yeah, any life on any planet, anywhere in the universe.
I'm saying
that we don't know what those conditions are.
Basically, put it this way: if you look at some of the works of some of the cosmologists, they even talk about on the inception of the universe. They call it the Big Bang.
Yeah.
When that happened, they say that the chances that all of the constants could have been as they are, at that particular fraction of a second when the universe was incepted, is basically slim to none. 10 times 1, 2 to the power of, and then you got 100 numbers or something.
That's right.
Now the point is really, there are so many things you have to take for granted are randomly aligned that it becomes probabilistically impossible to suggest that they were. So instead of
what I would say to that, in all honesty, is if we take all the the chances are whatever they are, let's just say 1 in a million, just to keep it something we can understand. Clearly, it's many multiples of that. We don't know what the other 999,000 other scenarios are.
No,
we don't know.
But we do know something about this.
It could have happened.
Okay.
So the chances are this, and then there's a bunch of other possible outcomes. We don't know what those are or what they mean for life.
We know that there's, with a million examples.
I would grant that we probably wouldn't be here.
Okay. So how did we get here? Must have been something aligned us.
This started here,
something
and
aligned
that knocked on, and then we were here.
Do you accept that like?
I don't accept it in the same way if I deal, if we're playing cards and I deal you 13 cards, what I've given you is incredibly improbable. But it doesn't mean that I did it on purpose.
I'll be honest with you.
It's just like, that's your hand, that's what it is.
Can
And
I
you're
be
like,
honest with you?
how could I have
Ken,
possibly
Ken,
gotten a
Ken,
hand
in
with a
that case,
2 and a 3?
It's not 13 cards. It's a billion cards, and all of them were with Jack. Or some madness like that.
I'm not sure that that's what they're saying.
Or you flip 1 billion coins and all of them are bloody
But why
heads.
are you saying they're all jacks?
I don't know.
Why are you saying that for?
Yeah, I don't know why I'm saying that. But I'm saying like,
But see,
okay,
this is not what-
you have 1 million coins. Yeah.
I think all the
You have,
claim-
you have 1 million coins. You flip them all.
Yeah.
And all of them come on heads. Do you accept this?
But it depends upon how many times you flipped it.
Flip it once. Okay, do you
No,
know
no,
what? Flip
you know
it
what I
100
mean?
times.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Flip it 1 million times.
Still unlikely.
Okay, fine. In that case, so me and you accept this, yeah? Would you say, okay, it makes more sense to suggest a conscious force, an intelligent force, actually changed it as well?
Yeah, but you see what I'm saying
Yeah.
is that coin flipping thing is just like, what's the chances that it happened? It's like, it depends upon how many times you ran the experiment.
1 million times.
If you run it enough,
1 billion times.
if you run it enough, you'll get
A
to
trillion
some
times.
point where the probability of that event isn't that
I'm ju-
spectacular.
No.
And
I'm
clearly,
saying
that's an
the only-
astronomical
Do you know
number.
when?
Yeah.
When you do it infinite amount of times.
Not even infinite.
No,
but
that's the only way. There has to be an infinite. That's the only way you could do it. And infinity, as you know,
to guarantee the event, yes.
and infinity as a reality doesn't exist mathematically. It's a mathematical abstract construct.
But the
it
things we're
doesn't
butting head on is this thing about the 13 cards. That I deal you
13, are
13
you
cards.
making it very small?
All right. Well,
exist. Million cards,
that's
billion
fine.
cards.
But I'm
Make it-
saying I'm
make
just
it more
keeping it to
realistic.
like a normal hand where I deal you 13
No,
cards.
we don't need to make it
and
normal.
there's nothing spectacular
We're
about
trying
it.
to normalize a very spectacular situation. That's the problem.
I was just trying to make an analogy of why this makes sense to me. If I give you 13 cards, the chances of
Okay.
you get hold on, let me just finish. The chances of you getting those cards are incredibly small.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about it even being a good hand. It could be a crappy hand with a bunch of junk in it.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what it is. The chance that you got it is incredibly small. Depending upon what game you're playing,
Fantastic.
the hand might be useful, it might not be useful. It's irrelevant to the fact that how did you get those cards? Did I design it? No, I just laid one down, I laid
Fantastic.
another down, I laid another
So-
down, and every time I laid a card down, the chances that you would have gotten those cards get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So if I give you 100 cards, the chance that you got those cards in that order is fractionally.
So I think me and you agree, yeah?
Yeah.
So it makes more sense to say that something adjusted those cards in place.
No, it's just saying those are the cards you got. Whether they're meaningful or not
Say
is.
that again, sorry?
If I give you 13 cards,
Forget about 13. Let's go back to my example.
whether you got all hearts or you got a loaded
Ken,
chunk,
please.
the probability of you getting
Ken, please.
that hand is the same.
Okay, can I be
Right?
very blunt with you now, yeah?
Yeah.
This is because I don't want to just pretend that this is our narrative, yeah?
Yeah.
Now and I can better understand our narrative. Our narrative is that to believe in such a thing is the height of foolishness, and the height of ridiculousness, and the height of
Why?
self-denial. Because if you say to yourself that if we've got 1 million or 1 billion, let's say 1 billion, we've got 1 billion coins,
Yeah.
we flip all of those coins
Yeah.
1 million times, 1 billion times, 1 trillion
Yeah.
times, that all of such coins will get heads or tails.
I'm not sure we're saying that.
No, but
That's
that is,
my point. Because I'm not sure
the
that that's the
probability
right
is
analogy. I'm just saying.
No, it is the right analogy.
No,
According
I'm
to
saying we
cosmologists-
flipped it 1 million times, and whatever order they've come out in has a certain probability
because-
to it,
no,
which
this-
is ridiculously
This is
small.
the issue. Okay, you don't understand what I'm saying. The fine-tuning of the universe reasons the following thing: that the universe is so finely tuned to facilitate any kind of life that the probability of it coming about, the laws of the universe come about as a result of a random generation, are so negligible that they would be in line with what kind of analogy I'm referring to right
and
now.
I think here's the difference is you're saying they're there for life to exist, and I'm saying we don't know what
No, we don't.
we don't know what what we need for life to exist. It could be
No, we
a
do
bunch
know.
of different.
No, we do know what we need for life to exist. We do know. That's the thing. You're making claims which are not true.
No. For the universe to be exactly the way it is, I agree with you 100%.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. Then. We can have. Okay, this is the problem. I think a lot of atheists confuse the fine-tuning argument.
Don't say atheist. It's not nice.
No, a lot of it. What should I call them?
I said, we're just having a conversation.
A lot of people, not yourself, but a lot of people confuse the argument. They think that I'm saying that the probability of us having this universe, this exact universe, is such and such. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the probability of having a universe, whatever universe that may be, that has the constants that would facilitate any life to exist within it, is infinitesimally small in the way that I've described.
I'm not sure we even know what that probability is.
Yeah, we do. That's the kind of thing that physicists are working on.
We don't know because we only have one.
That's the kind of thing that physicists are working on.
to look at.
No, but that's the kind of thing that physicists are working on, and that's the kind of thing that even atheistic physicists agree is an incredibly small number that would be tantamount to be an impossible probability. That's what it would be. So what I'm saying is to believe in such a thing would require an incredible amount of self-denial that I personally believe it would be not for a rational reason that an atheist would come to this conclusion. It cannot be. It must be.
But you personally believe that.
I believe it's psychological reasons.
I believe.
It's nothing to do with rationality now.
See, I think we're just talking about different things. I don't think scientists are saying what you're saying.
Yes, they are. I can reference it.
Oh, you can reference me to go and read it.
Even Richard Dawkins in his book, he agrees. He references the fine tuning. He is one of he wrote The God Delusion. He has to.
I agree. Everyone says that there are constants and that the chances of them being the way they are incredibly small. That's without doubt. I've conceded that.
Okay, so
what I'm saying is, in
so
all the other possible occurrences of how they could have come out, we don't know what the results are going to be because we only have one universe.
No, but what I'm saying
we
is
don't know.
Okay, you see, I think you're starting not to understand again. I'm saying that had we had another universe, I'm not talking about the other universe. I'm talking about the universe's ability, the universe with apostrophe S, the universe's ability, to be able to have within it the constants that are needed to allow life to exist, any life.
Yeah.
This is fine tuning.
We don't know.
No, now, according to physicists and cosmologists, based on the analysis that we've had on this particular universe, it's very unlikely to the extent where we can say it's impossible. That's why I've given you the example of a million coins.
If that's the case and that's what they say, then I would accept it. But I haven't read that.
What do you think? What do you think fits the bill more now?
Because if that's the way people described it, my argument would be different. But I don't think that's the way to describe it.
I wouldn't lie to you, and people can easily research it. Now, and they have. By the way, I've made this argument before, and people have researched it, and they didn't say that no one has come to me and said your references are wrong.
Okay, what's the reference?
So I've said to you before that the fine-tuning references, people like...
I'm going to put it in the comments section if it's bogus.
So in brief, as far as I've read, A Brief History of Time, by Stephen Hawkins, he has conceded to it. And Stephen Hawkins is an atheist, a hardcore atheist. And others. So even, I said my height.
Really?
Yeah,
6'6"?
That's exactly my height.
Ka-ching.
That's it.
All right, I'll check out what he says on it.
Anyways, this one reference, but I'll give you more. The point really is, look, even a poking horn, I think he's a Christian though, fair enough, but I think poking horn has something interesting on this as well. If that's his name, I think it's his name. Yeah. Now, having said that, look, really, I'm saying to you this, that if we know that the universe is finely tuned in such a way, and we have two different worldviews, we have two different explanatory mechanisms. You have the atheistic mechanism and you have the theistic mechanism. The atheistic mechanism says this is a random generation. It came about as a result of random probability.
I'm not sure it says that.
No, what does it say? You have nothing else to say. Or you can say, no, it's the theistic worldview says, no, in fact, there was an entity that existed before the universe which aligned all the constants. For you, which makes more sense? Be honest.
To be honest, I sound like I'm arguing against you, but you've heard my initial point, and I'll say it again. If you want to say there's a creator of the universe, there's enough stuff to go in and find to say, I think there's a reasonable hypothesis there. Yes. What does hypothesis mean? It means something that, from the beginning looks like it might be true. Whether it turns out to be true or not is something completely different.
I accept it, but what I'm saying is...
Completely different. So I could say, is that a reasonable hypothesis? Yeah. Now, it depends where I would start to quibble. So let's get rid of the rest of this stuff. And let's go with this hypothesis and see where it goes.
Yes.
Okay? So let's say we have a creator. Where I would start to get, a little bit queasy is when we start taking this hypothesis, which is, as I said, is not all that sure to start with. I mean, it's reasonable. But just being reasonable doesn't mean anything. We've had plenty of reasonable hypotheses over time, which have turned out to be absolute
it's more reasonable than the atheistic one? The random generation one?
I have to say I just don't know.
Okay, fine. That's better than before, because you started as an atheist, now you're an agnostic. Anyways.
No, I mean, I've always been the same way. I mean, could it have happened that way? I don't know. I guess so. Why not?
Okay, fine.
I mean, science has told us all kinds of crazy stuff.
Let's go with it, as you say. Go on.
All right. So we've taken this, which is it's a hypothesis, it's not proven, and now we're going to start to hang attributes on this thing. Yeah. Now, like your probability thing, every time we hang a new attribute on this thing, the chances of you being wrong start to increase more and more and more. You've got more and more to prove every time you hang an attribute on this thing. If we're just going to talk about deism and say there's a creator of the universe, we don't know what it is and can't know, fine. Might even accept the hypothesis, end of discussion. When we're going to start saying that he's created our books and we know exactly what he's thinking. We don't understand him at all. He's completely beyond us and we don't understand him, but we know what's in his book and we know exactly how he wants us to behave. I find it a bit strange.
Okay, can I come back now and say, you've hit the nail on the head. Now you're talking about really justifying the case for God. And I'll say to you this, yes, you've got a point.
Yeah.
You haven't got a point, because what you're saying is, if I've got your argument correct, that with all of the attributes of God, you cannot prove, for example, some of the things that the Bible, the Qur'an, these books talk about. You can't prove the fact that God is loving, and you can't prove the fact logically, through deduction, that God is all merciful. You can't prove the fact that God is, all these things. Right? And I would concede to that. I say, from a logical and entirely deductive perspective, you cannot do that.
Right.
You can potentially, and I think you'd agree with me, you could potentially reason 5 or 6 different attributes of God at best, which is, one of them is knowledge, as we've discussed with the fine tuning. The other one is power, because he needs to change the situation. The third one is God was there before anything else, because then you'd have the oddest, or the fallacy of...
Well, God would be part of those preconditions that I was talking about,
another one would be that God... these would be the 3, actually, the main ones. To add to it,
if we were going to go with...
To add to it, you could just, one more thing, using Occam's razor, you could say that one God is more logically acceptable than 2 or 3 or 4, because to have 2 or 3 or 4 would suggest that each of those gods have has an independent will. And if those gods have independent wills, that would suggest now that there would be a conflict in interest or conflict in wills. Therefore, from those angles, you can say that God is one. So you've got 4 or 5 different attributes there of God.
I probably wouldn't join you on the uniqueness of God's
potentially.
I don't see any reason for that to be a whole hierarchy of gods out there making stuff happen.
But you know why that wouldn't be a possibility?
Kind of like a manager. This guy decides a few things. These guys implement the things.
There's 2 or 3 things why that wouldn't be a good idea. One would be because...
Hang on. Sorry, good idea. And good idea.
Wouldn't be a reasonable
the fact that it happened is different.
Yeah, it's a good point. So let me rephrase. It wouldn't be a reasonable proposition. One of them is Occam's razor, which is a philosophical / physics construct. It's used in both disciplines, and it's the idea that you need to simplify your results to basically the lowest common denominator, which is that the idea that you need to get the most simple explanation for things. That is the most basically coherent one. So to suggest that there are 3 or 4 gods is the most complicated thing, because now you have to explain how such gods interact with each other in this web of gods.
How do you have to explain it?
Because if they have independent wills, because the thing is, you have to understand all of them. Let me tell you why. The attributes of God that we've described, knowledge, power, etc., they depend upon the fact that God has an independent will. or that entity that existed before the universe has an independent will. If that is the case, if you have more than such one independent will, then there could be very much a conflict of interest, and that's what the Qur'an says in chapter number 23, verse number 93. So, how you doing? The point is here, that if that did occur, then decision making couldn't happen, and therefore the universe and the maintenance of the universe, the beginning of the universe, couldn't happen as well.
Yeah. See, this is where I'm.
Which is why the Trinity doesn't make sense.
Well, I'm not talking about the Trinity specifically.
And other things, other polytheistic
This is where I'm saying when
constructs.
you're hanging attributes on this thing, you have to do a lot of what-ifing. I don't really see any problem why there couldn't be a bunch that, try to decide things. Maybe they have gotten it bungling, which kind of, explains some of the things that we find to be inconsistent with our, the world the way it is. Why are there tsunamis that take out people? Why are there children under the age of 5 dying every second? And these kinds of horrendous things that are objectively horrendous.
Objectively impossible to prove.
Yeah, and so, these
From
things...
an atheistic perspective.
And these things might be...
That are horrendous.
Yeah, this could be part of, maybe God is bungling. Maybe there is a host of them up there that aren't making good decisions. Maybe that's why we have stuff. We can maybe...
the thing
but
is,
you know what? We can maybe there's stuff to death. And I can say, yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff wrong. I think God is a bit bungling. It's him, and he's got a really bad committee working for him who are screwing up the instructions and imposing their own will.
Let me tell you where the problem would lie in that kind of reasoning. There's a real issue with that kind of reasoning, actually. Because the one thing that you've accepted in the beginning of our conversation is something we can objectively prove is mathematics. Now, physics is really an offshoot of mathematics. You need maths to do physics.
Right.
So when we're talking about constants and laws of the universe, that's free from ideological prejudice or ideological bias.
Yeah.
So you couldn't say that you're ideologically motivated when you're talking about these things, but you can say that you are when you're talking about the problem of evil. As an atheist, you can't even prove that the idea of evil even exists.
Of course it can.
No, you can't.
Why?
It's impossible. Why? Go ahead and do it.
I mean,
objectively.
I don't need to prove that unless something, let's say a tsunami took out my whole family while they were on vacation. I stayed here in London.
Why is that bad?
It's fucking horrible to me.
Okay, but why is it? How can you prove that it's a bad thing?
To me, it's horrible. Okay, and it's probably horrible to all those other people that have.
Already, it's subjective. When you say to me, it's your opinion.
Yeah, see, this is what This is where I.
Well, to me, how about this? If my family was killed,
do you really disagree with me that that's bad?
Yeah.
You think it's okay for tsunamis to wipe out thousands of people?
I think that there's a greater plan. Yeah. It's like this. Like let me tell you an interesting story of a Hindu. I think this is a Hindu tradition. Let me tell you a story. Yeah. A story is that you've got 3 blind men. They went to the zoo. These 3 blind men, one of them, they touched the tail of the elephant. One of them touched the ear of the elephant. One of them touched the foot of the elephant. They came back. They were asked, what's an elephant like? They're all blind. One of them said the elephant is a very hairy creature, very long. The other one said the elephant is a very wavy creature.
Yep.
The third one said the elephant is a very heavy creature or whatever. It's got very different features. All 3 of these blind men had no idea of the reality of the elephant because they were only exposed to a part of the elephant's reality. And by the same token, you could say that human beings are very much only exposed to the pixel, not the whole picture.
Yep.
So here the issue is, when we try and make judgments about morality, we cannot make such overwhelming judgments, especially if we're not exposed to the
I'm going to go back to the things that the things that I'm talking about, the suppositions I make, are not about the whole elephant. They're just about the tail.
Okay, so that's
and when I'm talking about something, I'm talking about our conditions here on this earth.
How can you prove evil?
Hang on. So these are the things I'm talking about. You've been taking the conversations out to things that I don't understand. You've been going out to the whole elephant, and when we get to the whole elephant, that's when I say, I don't know, I'm only touching the tail here.
Okay, then in that case, what you're doing is an injustice. You can't.
Why?
Because what you're saying is that I will only analyze a part of the reality and make a judgment. It's basically exactly the problem with the science. One of the issues of the scientific method. One of the issues of the scientific method, is that as David Hume, he said it in his book, and I'm going to say, if you go and see 100 white swans, and then you
That's the problem with
conclude.
induction.
Yes, the problem with that, and then you conclude that that all swans are white.
Right.
Therefore, that would be an injustice because it doesn't. So in the same way, just because you see a part of the elephant, and you're saying that it's so bad. Okay, let me tell you something. Actually, I'll actually turn the tables over in an amazing way here. Yeah. On atheistic worldview, if a baby child dies, that means nothing.
Why?
That means nothing to that child. It means nothing to the parent. It means suffering.
It means everything to the child and everything to the parent.
The child no longer exists. The parent is in pain and agony, and they will have to get over that.
Yeah.
There is no spiritual or otherwise, there is no after effect of that.
That's possibly true.
Yes. Now, so from our angle, a child dying, okay, he is going to be in a better place. For us, we have a happy ending. You guys don't have a happy ending. So
Okay,
for you,
but I agree with you. You have a happy ending in that sense.
what's the issue?
Sense that
We can define evil.
In that sense that you think that there's a paradise for you, which is going to be perfect after
the
death.
baby.
I agree with you. Yeah. That is a happy ending. There's on that context, we will not disagree. The question is whether it's true. Whether the unpleasant truth is
true. For as we said before in the beginning,
it's possible that there's nothing after death, which scares the shit out of all of us, and whether it scares the shit out of us or not,
if you believe that there's something after death, that also scares you.
Because
let me tell you that
death is the unknown.
Look, can I say
Clearly,
something?
we don't know anything for sure after death. It's all scary.
If you believe in morals, and you're saying that you're saying about yourself that I know for a fact that morals exist as a reality, as an objective morality. If you're saying that, my question will be to you then, where did they come from?
We made them up.
Okay, if you made them up, then how comes you believe that they're objective? Because things that are made up by human beings that are sociological in nature are changing in nature as well.
For the same reason why I think some of the scientific laws, work that we've made up. We've made them up. They work.
So then
because they work.
Because they don't work. Because actually,
not all of them work.
No, if they were true as objective moralities, they wouldn't change.
Not all of them are true. I can say things. But this is the thing. I don't think there are truths in that way. Huh?
Why do they change? Can
New information.
Change? Okay, the truth cannot change.
Clearly, I'm going to make moral choices based on some real rational evidence for these things.
Yes.
Hopefully.
All right. Now I think we've covered so many points.
So it's the thing. It's like, why would I not punch you in the face? I have good reasons why I wouldn't do that.
Right.
Very good reasons.
I'm annoying.
Some of them are, for the fact that you're bigger than me, and you might punch me back and it might hurt more. But that's not really a moral reason. The other thing is, maybe you're weak, and I don't want to hurt you. I feel bad. If you were my child and someone punched him in the face for being weak, I would feel bad.
Yeah, maybe.
Right? So, there's a couple things, and one of them clearly has some moral ground on, and some, it's not, like I said before, it's not bedrock,
yes.
But it is, there's a reason there.
Do you accept
And if
now?
you're going to accuse it of not being solid enough, then, I might concede that, but it's not the same as saying that I don't have any reason for my moral choices. A very good reason, and I think it's actually better for us to discuss them and say why you have a reason. If you have children, you don't just want to say, you don't do this, or else I'm going to punish you. You actually want to explain.
Yeah, but you have no objective foot to stand on.
Are you kidding? What if I told my child not to punch people in the face when they go to school? You don't think that matters?
You have no objective foot to stand on.
Yeah. All I can say at that point is, that's the kind of society that I and most people want to live in.
Okay, that's fine. So if it comes back to a democratic reasoning,
do you have a problem with that?
No, I'm
saying. Do you
saying,
have a problem with telling a child not to punch people in the face?
Of course not. I can say that. You can't straw man the argument.
So why are you saying it doesn't have?
I'm
it's not a good argument.
You have your own opinion.
Why is it a bad argument?
It's not a bad argument. I'm saying it's not objective.
Okay, so what's not objective about it?
It's not objective. What is objective about it is for you to prove it.
Yeah, no, but you're using objective as being outside of humans. I've already conceded if the Earth were here and there were no humans on the Earth, there would not be morality. Okay. It takes us here who have compassion.
So,
hold on. We have compassion. We prefer pleasure to pain.
Yeah.
And we have the capability of recognizing the consequences of our action. And it's these things that make morality even possible.
Okay, so in that case,
in a sense, this condition defines...
Is morality invented by humans?
In a sense, yeah.
And is it changing?
Yes.
Can truth change?
Can truth change?
Can 2 plus 2 equals 4 change?
No.
Okay, so morality is not truth.
Yeah, see, you're going back to this absolutist thing again, and
Yeah, of course.
I'm not.
You want me to prove God?
How about
absolutely.
this? Let me say this about it. Let's say
No, but can you answer that question? So morality is not truth.
morality is not truth.
In the same way that 2 plus 2 equals 4 is truth.
It's not truth in the same way.
So you telling your son, don't slap someone in the face, is not truth.
Boy, let's put it this way.
Is that
It
right?
would be hard for me to find a scenario where that would be a poor piece of advice.
Okay, no, but that's in
So
your
in
opinion.
a sense, that's true.
Okay, no, in a sense, meaning in my opinion.
This gets back to the thing. It's like me saying something is absolute, and me saying it's
So
ridiculous to believe the contrary.
Yeah.
Yeah, is kind of what I'm talking about.
But you know what I was going to say is that you actually employ something without realizing there's a presupposition, which is a democratic kind of reasoning. Do you realize that?
Of course.
The democratic
You
reasoning.
realize that we all are different types of people, and
I understand-
other of us
look,
will
I
find
understand that.
slightly different reasons. Some people
But if
decide
you
things
accept-
on power. Some people on
But
democracy.
if you're using a democratic reasoning,
Yeah.
then do you accept that in 1933 in Germany,
No,
you don't accept what they did was right?
no.
The German people were wrong. The majority of the electorate, they voted for Hitler, or the Nazi Party in particular.
I think that's a real leap to say that the Germans were in favor of, torturing the Jews like that.
I didn't say anything about Jews.
I would concede that
I didn't say
there
anything
could
about
have
Jews.
been a significant portion of them that thought that was okay.
I didn't
But
say
would-
anything about Jews. I'm saying that 1933, if you look at the election results,
Yeah.
democracy dictated that the Nazi Party should be in power. Is that correct then?
Is that correct?
Is that true?
I mean, it was a poor decision.
It was a poor decision. In that case, then you can't use the democratic reasoning.
It's not democratic.
You've said before the majority of us believe in this, but in every context.
Yeah, but that's kind of unfailing over the test of time.
What do you mean by that?
I just said, name me a scenario in which case that wouldn't be a good piece of advice, and you said there isn't one.
What I'm saying to you, no, I didn't say that. I said that if you're using a democratic reasoning,
Okay, these are different pieces of,
can you choose that? Can you prove that democracy is an ultimate
Of
truth?
how much evidence we have for something. Is Hitler going to
So
be?
it's incredible.
Is Hitler going to be a good
It's
leader if we elect him? I mean,
You know what?
you would have
Ken,
to say you don't really know, but
I have to say this is I respect you in a sense because
Yeah.
you've been candid with me, but I have to be honest here. The truth must come out. Yeah, my truth. I personally believe you are employing an incredible double standard, an absolutely incredible one. Why? Because when it came to talking about the fine tuning,
Yeah.
and when we talk about the probability, which is literally impossible to believe that the universe came about as a result of random forces,
yeah.
you said, yeah, well, we don't know. But when it came to something which is almost purely subjective, which cannot be proven objectively, and which, like the idea of someone slapping someone else as a bad thing, although you cannot prove it, you accept it. So it seems like with subjective things that you cannot prove, with no probabilistic
I made a
reasoning.
distinction when we started this.
With no
thing.
probabilistic
Proving
reasoning.
things and something having a fantastic amount of evidence are two different things.
Okay, so what has more evidence? The fine tuning of the universe, or slapping someone in the face is a bad thing?
Slapping someone in the face.
That is the most ridiculous statement I've ever heard any human being. Do you know on that? How can you prove that? I'm going to end with this.
When I said we were talking about the elephant in the tail, it's just like these are things I know about. We shouldn't hit each other.
How do
in
you
the
know that?
Because I live on the
Okay,
earth.
in
If
that
I
case.
get hit in the face, it
So
hurts.
is it predisposed in you to believe that?
Huh?
Is it a predisposition?
I don't think so. I mean,
So
my
how did it come?
experience
How
of
did it get
life-
there?
Huh?
Was it is
You
it
make
nature?
No, this is where I
Is
get...
it nature or
Hang on.
nurture?
You were honest
Are
in
you
saying
born?
how ridiculous you think I am. I'm going to be honest in saying how ridiculous I think some of your things are.
Like what?
It's pretty common to say that hitting someone in the face is, not only is a bad thing to do.
So what if it's
all
common?
of us would say this,
It's common
and
to
you're
say
coming
that-
to me like I'm saying something, like
No,
I've
no,
just
no, my
snatched
friend. I'm
something
saying
out
that
of the
in
air
Germany it
that
was
doesn't
common to
have
be
any
anti-Semitic.
basis to it at all.
In Germany
It's
it
had
was-
a basis over the
Okay,
entire
no, hold on.
existence of humans.
Hold on. If you're talking about
I mean,
commonality,
it's one of the most fundamental
But
things
if
about
you're talk-
behavior
if
that
you're-
we can talk about.
if you talk about-
That's why I would
okay.
say, what's more likely? Don't punch someone in the face, or
So,
whatever has
if you're
talking,
talking-
cosmologically
if you're
out there
talking-
somewhere, and
Ken.
things that I can't describe.
Accepted.
That's why I
But
chose
Ken,
this one.
I was going to say that if you're talking about commonality or what's commonplace in a society, then
Yeah.
you have to go back to the German example.
No, we don't.
Yes, okay.
That's
Well,
not common. It's not common for people
can
to
I ask
elect
you-
Hitler.
No. It was common. That happened.
It happened once.
It happened
and it was
once.
a mistake.
And
it wouldn't be done again.
My question to you is this: no, but it's still common. If you look at the history of anti-Semitism in the West, yeah,
Yeah.
it was common to be anti-Semitic in Germany. Yes or no?
I imagine there was some, yeah.
What's up, on?
In Europe, there probably still is some, yeah.
Yes, that was common in the 1930s, yeah?
There probably still is common, but not to the same level.
But if your argument is that that which is common must be true, evidently, then anti-Semitism was true.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh, it's just a contradiction then. It's just a contradiction.
No, it's not.
It really is.
Why?
Because your argument is that is your argument.
No. You could ask me. Why don't you ask me the same question that I asked you? Is like, why is punching someone in the bad face? Why is that a bad argument on my side?
I'm just saying.
If you ask me why is electing Hitler a bad thing to do, I can explain you exactly what happened. We wouldn't do it again.
It's not. I'm just saying to you that
it's
you
not
can't
empirically tested over time. It was tested once and it failed.
You can't objectively
Thrown
prove
out.
it.
Not part of morality. Not part of good decision
slapping someone in the
making.
face
Is bad.
How do you know? How can you prove that?
Go try it. See how it works for you.
No. So I'm just saying, how can you prove it as an objective
but
monarchy?
this is what I mean. Don't.
Because the thing is, you have to be consistent, my friend. You really do.
And you have to be consistent by not going after things that you know are self-evident. That you agree with me
I can say the same thing about.
Why are you?
Can I say that?
Yeah, these type of
How's it self-evident?
philosophical trifles are just not interesting. Can you absolutely prove that?
Can I say something?
Again, I said from the beginning,
please.
there are certain things I can't absolutely prove, but there are things that are fantastic evidence for.
So
punching someone in the face, being good behavior among a group of social creatures is not a good idea.
Why?
The evidence is fantastic.
What's the evidence?
Number one, it'll hurt you.
So what?
Huh?
Okay, that's the presupposition.
And you might do it back to me. I don't want it to be done. If we all go around punching each other in the face, it's going to be a horrible place to live.
So what?
If everyone in Speaker's Corners punched each other in the face,
one
I
question.
wouldn't come here.
Ken. Yes, fair enough. Ken, how can you prove the word bad exists?
Yeah, see, I'm not
concept of
using
evil.
bad in terms of the theological concept.
No, I'm not
that
talking
you
about
might
philosophically.
use. You know, the consequences are not desirable.
Okay.
We do not want them. They're not good for
The
society.
consequences are not
They're
desirable.
not good for any objective we're trying to reach as humans.
Okay, what's the objective that you're trying to use? Reach.
We want to. I think before, it's like pleasure is preferable to pain.
Okay,
I think this is as base as you can make about.
So your argument.
You know, this is
Okay,
again something I started. I know that's a presupposition, but
so
it's a
you
really
believe it?
small
So
one.
would you say you're a consequentialist?
No.
So what are you then? You just live in life, right? Just following the herd.
I don't follow the herd.
No, you are.
You know by talking to me, I'm not a herd follower.
No, but I'll tell you something, my friend. Because what it is you are. You're following popular culture without having any reasoning.
I would say you're following the herd being a Muslim.
No, but I've given you questions, critical questions, which you haven't been able to give me consistent results for.
Yeah, and I said at the beginning, you and I are laying in the same bed when it comes down to this because you're attacking the bedrock of my decision making, and I would attack yours in the saying that you're pinning your hopes on the presupposition that you're in contact
the presupposition
with
is based
someone
on
who
evidence.
has 100% of the answers.
It's evidence.
That is an absolutely massive
But that's
claim.
proven by what I've just talked to you about. If you take my line of argument, which is not, we haven't even referred to scripture, because you said to me before that it's all based on scripture. It's not based on scripture. What I'm saying is, if you take my line of argument, there's evidence to suggest that God exists, which is the following, which I told you. Yeah.
It's a hypothesis. I agreed. It's a possible hypothesis.
Everything requires some level of faith.
It could be false.
Everything.
It could easily be false.
Everything requires some level of faith. Everything. Even your own existence. To believe in your own existence requires some level of faith.
A very small amount.
No, that's in your opinion. Some philosophers took this very seriously. Seriously. I mean, I'm saying to you that, as I said to you before, you require to take rationalism and empiricism. All of those things have to be taken as for granted as working, presuppositions. Right? No, but that's the idea. Is working. It's not. It's something. Just because something is working doesn't mean it's true. Doesn't mean it's your experience that's working.
Yeah, the evidence the evidence is fantastic that it's working.
Okay, so I would say
it's fantastic. I would say there's no evidence.
I would say the evidence. Would you say that the evidence for fine-tuning of the universe being set by an entity is fantastic?
No.
Okay, in that way, I would say that.
The fact that they're constants.
Yeah.
The evidence for them being constants is
in that way,
fantastic.
I'll say one more thing before we leave. Yeah.
All right.
Use the word self-evident. There's one more argument that I want to put forward to you, which is called we in Islam. It's called the fitra argument. Let me just drink this tea. It's gone cold, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
What I was going to say was that this argument is as follows, yeah? That all the human beings are born with something called the fitra.
Somewhat.
In Arabic it's called fitra. Fitra, in the Qur'an it says فطرة الناس الذي خلق فطرة الله التي خلق الناس عليها. The fitra of the people that He has created them on. Fitra is an innate predisposition to believe in God.
Right.
If you look at Oxford Anthropological Society in 2011, they conducted a major sociological study.
You're not going to cite that.
Pardon?
You're not going to cite that book that Hamza sort of cited, are you?
I don't know what he cited.
Who wrote the article? Is it one person or is it a
No,
whole
it's not.
study?
Hamza Sources didn't write this.
No. He cited something like this in one of his talks.
Okay, so basically, the Oxford Anthropological Society.
Okay, who was leading that?
I can't remember the name.
All right.
I can't remember. But you can check it up. It's on. They got a Guardian thing on it. They got a Guardian article, 2011.
The reason I bring this up is this comes up a lot. They say there's a predisposition to believe.
Believe in one God. Now, you've just said that you know self-evidently that morals exist. Yeah? I'm saying that, okay, if we use the same logic of believing in something self-evidently, doesn't it make sense to say now?
Doesn't say it's self-evident. See, this is where you're mixing, and where people are mixing the findings.
No, I'm not mixing.
You know,
I'm just like, can I just finish
all kinds of psychology talk about this phenomenon, about the agency.
Do you mind if I finish what I was going to say? I was going to say that when they did the experiment, which was a large-scale sociological experiment, which was multidisciplinary in nature, which involved anthropologists and psychologists and sociologists, etc., they deduced and concluded that it was a predisposition for people to believe in God. Right. They did this on studies on children, etc. My point is, when you have evidences, the like of which I've spoken to you about before, and then you have external evidences, and now you have internal evidences, psychological type evidences that God exists and is self-evident to human beings. Doesn't it make sense actually to believe in God?
That's not what it says.
So what does it say then?
I haven't read the article, but I would guess.
They made a book.
Yeah, whatever it is. The book, the article. When they're talking about that, you know, they're talking about human psychology. And they're talking about our, predisposition to assign agency to anything that happens.
They said, God, they made it clear that.
Exactly. And that does follow on to create gods for things. Those are agents, right?
Fine. So how would you explain this? Why did this study come about? Why are we predisposed to this? Why?
Well, generally people describe it as, making a certain kind of error. You assign agency to things, because we're, designed to. I'm actually getting into an area where I don't really know.
I want you to think about this. Do me a favor. Look, before we finish up, because I have to pray now, yeah? I was going to say, can you do me one favor, yeah?
Yeah.
Ken, it's been actually a pleasure talking to you, honestly, genuinely, yeah? Have you read the Qur'an before?
Yes.
Have you read all of it?
Yes.
What part, what have you read from beginning to end, yeah? Fine, in that case, I'll say to you the following then. I want you to just focus on one particular passage of the Qur'an.
Yeah.
And then come back to me and tell me what you think of it, and just ponder over it. I want you to look from chapter 50, to chapter 114. Now you might think that's a lot of chapters.
No, those are all the short ones.
These are short ones, yeah. If you just think about them for a second and just ponder over them and tell me what you think of the narrative voice, and come back to me and tell me what you think, if that's all right.
All right.
It's been a pleasure.
Good to talk to you.
Thank you very much, man.